I'm David Martin, and I'm one half of the coaching team iPromise Productions. And I would like to talk to you today about our method of coaching marriages, which we like to call organizing marriage. Now, in most coaching or counseling approaches, they like to approach it through one of three common paradigms. And these paradigms are used to understand marriage through either a spiritual, legal, or cultural point of view. And there's nothing wrong with these paradigms, but we need to understand that these approaches are subject to the interpretations of the observer. So, for example, within a spiritual paradigm, it's interpreted through the religion that marriage prescribes to, which then informs the behavior of the marriage. Within a legal paradigm, the marriage is interpreted by contract, which is interpreted by the law, and that legitimizes or sanctions what is allowed in the marriage. And then there's a cultural paradigm in which the society in which that marriage is a part of interprets or accepts what behavior should be allowed within the marriage. We like to take a fourth approach, or to look at marriage through a fourth paradigm. And that is to look at marriage through what we call an organizational paradigm. Doing this provides us access to the immense body of research that exists on organizational development and change management. It provides us tools for an objective analysis that's free of those limiting interpretations that you see inherent in the other paradigms. Now, in order to look at marriage as an organization, we have to make a case for it. So by definition, an organization is a collection of people working together in a division of labor to achieve a common purpose. Well, it's easy to see how a marriage can prescribe to that. It's two people who can come together to form the organization, and then it's extended through the children and through relatives and so forth. The two people work together. In other words, they divide up roles within the marriage in order for it to function. Now, where we talk about a common purpose is when it gets a little sketchy. Because a lot of people like to think of the marriage being the goal within itself. And the problem with that is once you reach the top of the mountain, there's nowhere to go but down. And if the wedding, for example, was the biggest goal that you and your spouse worked on together, then your marriage probably needs bigger goals. And if a marriage doesn't have further goals, then it's difficult to know if the structure is working. And by structure, I'm talking about those sets of rules that define the behavior in the marriage. And those set of rules can come from a variety of different places. It can be the value system that both spouses bring into the relationship. It could be the habits that have been formed even before they were married. And it could be the standards that both uphold to, or the lack thereof. And these different sets of rules become embedded within the relationship, and it spreads throughout and affects the entire marriage, as well as the children and extended family and so forth. So in our fourth paradigm, we look at these systemic structures which reveal rather than control the behavior of the individuals in the marriage. And the behavior in turn creates the systemic structures. And here are some more examples of some structures that can come about in marriage. Education, beliefs, fears, for example. Now, studying this reciprocal effect helps us to understand where the disconnect exists between the two spouses. So in our program, we like to create a set of goals for the marriage, and those goals are developed around a shared motivating purpose that the couple comes up with. And this purpose doesn't have to be that grand, it doesn't have to be that profound or even singular. It just has to be shared, and it has to motivate. Now, our organizational development approach may seem like behavioral psychology to some, but it's more like change theory, in that it isn't enough to just influence behavior through purpose, but we also have to put in place systemic structures that will be needed to sustain that change. Using an organizational development approach, we apply various models in the OD field to produce both rapid results and sustainable change in dysfunctional relationships. So to recap, our approach begins not with intervention in day-to-day problems, but with goals and outcomes. And then we work backward to create a pathway to achieving it. Only when the pathway has been developed is it time to consider traditional interventions that will best produce those desired outcomes. Now, some ask, well, aren't things like love, happiness, and intimacy, aren't those the goals that a marriage should have? Well, those aren't really goals. Those are actually choices. And we don't really make those choices in a marriage until we're sufficiently motivated by a deep, shared sense of purpose. Thank you.